Okay, I'm just worried it's gonna muddle things, but it's up to you. It's up to you.
Take it as a compliment.
Well, I mean,
These PGD people get such nice shirts. We never get them. You gotta buy them. You gotta buy these shirts. You get such nice shirts. Yeah. You do? Okay.
Well, I get the email, so you want to see.
This is government. We don't give out shirts.
They give out hats. And Kaylee gives out hats. Pay for your own shirts.
You got,
Hi, Commissioner. We're doing great.
Nice to see you and Gary dressed the same. Kind of uniform. Coordinate that, send out the memo. Lord, I like that. Yeah.
Only for
Yeah,
board meetings.
you got the cheap one. You didn't get the ones that embroidered in.
See Kaylee, she gives out good stuff. James, he's got like 17 different PGD hats of some kind.
17 years.
Oh, that's right. That's his annual bonus.
I got nine.
So is that it? I thought it was immediately following this meeting. James says, no, it's at noon. Now we're saying it's
No, it's 11.
11:30. Oh, speaking starts at 11:30.
Okay, we're gonna get started. Good morning, everyone. I want to call to order the August meeting, regular meeting and tentative budget hearing of the Charlotte County Airport Authority. Those who would like, I'd like to make sure everybody silences their cell phones. And Mr. Hurston, if you would do an invocation, and those that wish to join us, please stand.
Shall we pray? Dear gracious Heavenly Father, we take this time to praise your holy name, and we just thank you for all you do for us here at the airport. And we give you the honor, the glory, and the praise. We ask now that you bless this board with increased IQ, thinking abilities, critical thinking abilities as we consider our monthly business. And we ask for a hedge of protection around our airlines, our businesses, our buildings, and our employees. And we ask now, in the name of Jesus Christ, that you continue our hedge of protection around this airport. And we give you the honor and glory and praise. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Paul, would you mind?
Please join me with pledges of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next item is our roll call.
Good morning, everyone. Mr. Andrews?
Here.
Mrs. Oliver?
Here.
Mr. Carr?
Present.
Mr. Hansick?
Here.
Mr. Parrish?
Here?
Mr. Hurston?
Present.
Mrs. Coppola?
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. Any citizen wish to provide any input on an agenda item? Identify yourself, and then when we get to the agenda item, oh, I didn't recognize our Commissioner, Stephen R. Deutsch.
Well, someone's sitting in the seat in the back. I think I'd like to, my name is Stephen R. Deutsch, and I think I want to refer to agenda number 12 item. It is, rumor has it there's an election coming up, and it's been my privilege and pleasure to be coming to these meetings for about 12 years now. And I look around the room, and I think Kathleen's probably the only person here that's been to more airport authority meetings than I have. I remember meeting across the street. What's that? Yeah, well, yeah, I put the gray here to give me this mature look. Anyway, I think back where we used to have our meetings in the restaurant across the street. I can remember the day when I didn't get my money back from Direct Air. I can remember the day when we were all excited because we were approaching a total of 1 million passengers altogether. And I also remember back when I first came on the board, we didn't have a really great working relationship between the commission and this group. And Gary was here then, and I made a commitment, and I guess Paul and James Deutsch and a whole bunch of people twisted my arm and talked me into being going to be the liaison with the airport authority. And I shouldn't say this publicly, but I'm really happy and pleased that I did. I think over the years we've gotten an incredibly great working relationship between the county commission and you folks on the airport authority. Gary had a problem with water, we brought dirt. We had a problem where he needed a fence. We had a problem with a sign. We worked together on things because it's all about working together and doing what's good for Charlotte County. So I probably won't know till Wednesday if I'll be coming back, but I wanted to take the opportunity to tell you guys and probably ruin a couple of relationships that I've really enjoyed the opportunity to work with you over these years. I think we've accomplished some great things. The airport is a shining gem. It's part of Charlotte County. It's an integral part of it, but it's something that every one of us in this room should be proud of. And it's fantastic, and that's to the staff and to you folks. And hey, with the grace of the Lord, maybe a little bit of good luck, you'll be stuck with me for another 4 years. But thank you for the opportunity, the privilege. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. We do have really haven't had the opportunity how to handle this, so I'm going to just handle it now.
Since it's part of the board report on the Metropolitan Planning Organization, I guess it's appropriate to read now.
Yes, because it's an agenda item. This is from someone that watches us live, and he's not able to present this position in person. I'll just go ahead and read it, and we'll have to look at it, evaluating what he's saying as we get into it. While attending a meeting of the MPO, I learned that the airport's position on an upcoming construction on the intersection of Jones Loop Road and Piper Road is favoring a roundabout instead of a traffic light. I understand and certainly respect your position. In a discussion with the representatives of FTO, I was informed that any such project takes at least 5 years to evolve. Taking this into consideration, I feel certain that there was no knowledge of a new FedEx warehouse being developed in addition to the new warehouse distribution center on Piper Road. Both of these facilities dictate significant increase of tractor-trailer activity. It is certainly possible that these companies could entertain the use of tandem trailers to help reduce operational costs. You can see where I'm going with this. Tractor-trailer traffic and roundabouts do not fare well. You can verify this with DOT, the state of New Jersey. There are, as I understand it, in the process of eliminating all of their roundabouts. With the addition of these new developments, I would ask that you revisit your decisions concerning the intersection of Jones Loop Road and Piper Road and give consideration to the alternate traffic light. Thank you. You know, Mr. Hurston is our representative to the MPO, and Commissioner Stephen R. is also on the MPO, and I guess we can take a look at that, his request as you guys evolve that position. Okay, anybody else want to address the board on an agenda item? Seeing none. Our next item is employee service recognition.
Additions or deletions, and I have none, but.
Okay. Any additions or deletions to the consent agenda? It's quite extensive, and everybody's had a chance to review them. Okay, moving on to item 7, employee service recognition. Mr. Lowell.
Morning, Commissioners, Mr. Parrish. Something we'd like to start today and going forward for employee service recognition is recognizing our team members that go through professional development, which is something that Mr. Parrish and Mr. Duncan champion every day. And today we have 3 of our team members here, Chuck Satterley, Josh DeArmond, and Mike Timms, who I'd like to call up and come up to stand to be recognized. A little bit about them. Chuck is in our airfield maintenance department facilities, and he recently completed his AAA ACE airfield electrical certification, which now makes him a subject matter expert in all things airfield electrical. So I want to congratulate him on that. Josh recently completed his non-federal airfield weather observer certification, which allows him to input weather should our automated weather go down and the tower is closed, which allows us to bring aircraft in still at night. That's a huge asset to us here. And finally, Mike Timms received the 2022 Florida Airports Council Al Ghulamali Honorary Award for Airport Excellence in Airport Operations. That award is a nomination that he received and then is voted on by his peers at all the Florida airports. There's 20 commercial, 75 general aviation. So his peers selected him to receive that prestigious award, and that was based on his certifications that he's received and his contributions to airport operations in the state. So just wanted to recognize them today. Please join me.
Thank you. Okay. I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I have a motion to, and second to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion carried unanimously. Next item on the agenda is our public hearing for our FY 2022-23 budget. Just to give everybody a recap, the proposed budget was advertised on July 28, 2022, and it was also available on the same date on the Punta Gorda Airport website. The Airport Authority had a proposed budget presentation by Mr. Parrish and a workshop on August 4th, 2022. An overview of the proposed budget was the subject of an August 18th, 2022 Sun newspaper article, and there were no public comments from the workshop on August 4th, 2022. Are there any public comments to our proposed tentative budget? It's been out there in the public eye for some time. Seeing none, I'll go ahead and close the hearing as there's no further public comments. The final budget hearing and adoption of the budget will occur on September the 15th. Thank you.
Okay.
Secretary Treasurer's report.
We do need to adopt the tentative budget.
Oh.
I don't think.
I didn't make a note for that. I guess I wrote this myself, so okay.
So
we need a motion.
Just quickly, if I could. Okay. There is one change to the capital on the budget. We did add some projects, assuming that the design build goes into effect. It's a 1.2 million. They're small projects under 250,000. Obviously, all of those would come back to the board. I just wanted to make sure those were reflected in the CIP. Other than that, there are no changes from what was presented previously.
So, James, where would that change be made?
It's just in the capital, so it's below
That's
the
in the
line.
capital.
Yeah, it's down there, capital expenditures.
Okay, we'll need a motion to approve the tentative fiscal year 22-23 tentative budget.
So moved.
Second.
I
As
have a
presented.
motion to approve the 2022-23 tentative budget. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Same sign. Opposed. Motion carried unanimously. Okay. Secretary Treasurer's report.
I defer to our CEO, Mr. Parrish.
Okay, just a quick overview. We're trying to just consolidate this every month, just to give you guys a snapshot of how we're doing. You can see our month actual versus our budget variance for both revenue and expenses. As we've continued, we're a little over in expenses, as would be expected. And just to tell you where that is, a lot of that's in the cost of fuel. We have to assume a cost of fuel every year, which drives me insane. And so when we're over budget by $290,000, a lot of that's just the cost of the fuel. That's made up in the cost in how we sell it. So it's not a loss. But again, we're ahead of the curve for the month as well as for the year. Keep in mind we're going into the slow part of the year. But July was our busiest July ever, so I think next month you'll continue to see positive numbers. August and September will start to shrink as the airline service shrinks in Florida after school starts, and we have a 7-day shutdown for construction. Overall, we continue to go forward and profitable for the year. Next slide. Okay, so on to accounts receivables. I think everybody's gotten this. June, we have, according to my sheet, nobody. And a lot of them are 0 to 30. So those are just current that haven't been paid by the time this was printed. In May. So over 60 days, we're working. Well, actually, we got paid in full by Allegiant. We got paid in, actually all of them are paid, with the exception of Gulf Machine, which is 1 month behind. So we're doing really well on receivables. I think, that's part of the economy is going well, and hopefully that will continue. We're watching closely the market, both in the airlines and in general, and hopefully the slowdown we're seeing in GDP doesn't affect us much. But people tend to travel less when they feel like things are bad. So we'll continue to watch that. And our balance sheet continues to grow as we put projects on the books. So you'll continue to see that number, our net position, continue to rise. Once we close out 422, that will go on the books. We're closing out the GA facility, that will, and all the hangars. So all that goes here, and then we get to depreciate it, which if someone can tell me why governments depreciate things, that's just me. PFC income continues to come in as the flights continue, and one of the great things that we have to do is apply for a new authority to collect, and so that is on the agenda coming up. We will run out of authority to collect in about 6 months. That is about a year ahead of our schedule, and that's because flights have continued to increase. Even through the pandemic, we did better than expected. So, any questions?
James, quick question. Hey, what is the depreciation period on a runway?
20 years.
20 years, I guess. Thank you.
Okay, any further questions of Mr. Parrish? Seeing none, we'll move on to the Board Liaison reports. I'll take the first one with the Punta Gorda City Council. I've been in communication with them, and they've sort of been on a liaison for the summer, and there's nothing to report from Punta Gorda City Council that would affect us or interest, and we do have an item later on the agenda concerning the sewer relocation.
Well, that's city of Punta Gorda.
Yeah, it's with the city of Punta Gorda. I think it's a separate item.
It was on consent, and
Okay, good.
it was just an agreement with them for them to pay for relocation.
Okay, County Commissioners, Mr. Ames.
Oh, didn't hear me. I have nothing to report.
Mr. Hurston?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Had a busy month in July.
This is the MPO.
Yes,
Yes.
MPO and MPOAC. The MPO, I attended that meeting in Murdoch on July 18th. And, Mr. Chairman, what was the name of the individual on that email?
The first name, Roger.
Roger.
That's all. No last name.
I believe I assisted him in not only obtaining a preliminary report, but a final update on that Jones Loop intersection. And I did make the comment because the DOT presented 2 or 3 different options, and I told him that I, as an engineer, preferred the roundabout, and I specifically asked the DOT, is there a diameter circle size for when you expect a lot of trucks as compared to just a location where you expect a lot of cars, like on Edgewater Drive? And they said for the type of highway that we're dealing with there at Jones Loop, it's just one specific large diameter, and it didn't make any difference what the percentage of the trucks were, that they knew that the circle would work. And so I did specifically ask that question. But anyways, with respect to our agenda, and I have a copy of it and any of the reports that anybody may need, but we kind of made an adjustment on our unified program, planning work program, which is our 2-year construction project schedule. And of course, I under my committee report, I gave a report on us, but the Florida Transportation did give a report, and they're probably the biggest thing they're talking about is the new interchange at I-75 and Raintree. It's I believe it's going to be in Northport, Sarasota County. And we did talk about North Jones Loop Road, Taylor Road, and Veterans Boulevard corridor study. So it was a good, productive meeting. And then I did attend the MPOAC meeting up in Gainesville on the 28th, and that was conducted at the Florida Department of Transportation State Materials Lab. And we had a chance to see how they test samples of roadways and asphalt and all that type of stuff. And but if anybody wants anything from the agenda from the MPOAC report, I do have those available. And other than that, that's all I have to report, Mr. Chair. And I don't know if we want to talk any more about Jones Loop.
I think we have to leave it to the experts and the engineers. My first reaction is there's a stoplight there with our peak times of traffic coming into the airport. That traffic could back up all the way to the entry onto I-75 north.
I will submit to Helen the final updated report from the DOT and let her distribute it to all the commissioners. But I liked it.
If I may,
Yes.
I was involved in the initial phases of that as a landowner in the area, and my suggestion was to continue a road directly onto Piper and not just a turn there, and a right-hand turn onto Jones Loop, as there's very little traffic. With the, a large subdivision or a large distribution center that we were looking at earlier, I think they decided that the roundabout would work best. Did talk to them about the truck traffic, especially with what was, talked about in the circle inside of Jones Loop. And they assured us that the traffic, that size of vehicle was taken into account in this type of design. So I'm not a traffic or roadway engineer, but we did have those discussions.
Pretty close.
Moving on, community.
Hi, morning, everybody. Let's see what I've got here. Hope everybody goes out and votes. It's election time again. And I will be a poll watcher at wherever I'm needed. I volunteered for that. Election time is one of our great benefits in this country. I attended the Republican Executive Committee meeting representing the airport, and the Liberty Caucus meeting representing the airport. And I've also been to the Punta Gorda Women's Republican Club representing the airport. So I've had kind of a busy month, but they all love us. So that's good to hear. And
Moving on with Mr. Albert on any state legislation that's brewing out there.
Not that I have heard. However, just a reminder that in November is typically when we have our state legislative delegation meeting. So, we only have like 2 more meetings before that in order to finalize our requests. Also, as far as the lobbyist RFP, were we going to put that out or?
It's out.
Okay. So we're hoping to have responses or be voting by next meeting. Okay. All right. Perfect.
Okay, thank you. I always like to mention that all of the subjects that we're considering, and when we get into our financial records, all of this stuff is available on the airport's website. It's quite voluminous. That's the right word.
Voluminous?
Close.
Something
Yeah.
like that.
Close.
It's big. And so it is there, and the board members, the authority members, they get their package at least a week in advance, so we have an opportunity to study it. Any questions that come up, we can go to the appropriate staff member and get a better understanding or get into an argument, one or the other. So it is there. Okay, now we're going to move on to our attorney's report. Mr. Carr.
Well, it's an extremely busy airport, lots going on. I was pleased that we passed the interlocal agreement with the city of Punta Gorda. That was a long-fought sort of problem associated with us proving certain matters to the city attorney, but they have ultimately agreed to it. It just took a lot of research into some ancient documents, but we figured it out, and they've agreed to pay it, so I'm pleased to bring that to a conclusion. We've spent a lot of time this month working with Rosati's associated with the new concession agreement. It is a lengthy document because it involves build-out and other things and funding. It is still under consideration. I think Mr. Parrish may report on it later. A lot of input on that. Of course, we're about to close in the new general aviation, so we worked with the J&L and some other entities associated with closing out any potential liens and notices to owners. Then we have I don't say the problem, but we have what's called row hanger 2, where you want to build the new automobile rental facility. There's a big hangar in the way. There's a lot of unique ownership issues associated with that. The first was exactly who is in charge of the LLC that owns the lease. In dealing with a couple of representatives, we now have a new manager elected for that LLC and somebody to work with. I am seeking information on 2 issues. One is as to valuation, and 2 as to legal a definition under the FAA, which I received a lengthy explanation on the concept, the verbiage of airport purposes. Yesterday, it's actually not exactly defined under the FAA regulations, so we have a report on that. We're working towards that process. Has continued to believe that'll be amicably resolved. It's just going to take a little bit of time. We have Gulf Contours. I did an update on that this week. I have confirmed with the tax collector that the 2021 taxes, both tangible and real estate, remain delinquent in the total amount of $9,000. They're stated to me that they've inquired about a payment plan but have had no response. I have no updates from Mr. Goen associated with the potential move. As you're all aware, he's under an abatement agreement as opposed to a lease. His lease is already terminated. There's an abatement period entered into for 1 year for the purposes of him saying that he would move in that 1 year. He was supposed to give me a plan associated with that. I have no plan associated with that. Obviously, that doesn't terminate till August 30th, so I don't want to have any preemptive processes on that, but obviously I'll be looking for guidance from the board next month associated with how we proceed, how the board wants to proceed with that. Other than all those major issues and dealing with maybe a rogue taxi driver here and there, not much going on.
Question of curiosity on establishing the, I should ask this for James, establishing the evaluation of the, quote, privately owned hangars. How are we going to go about that? Are we going to get one, they're going to get an appraiser, then go to a review?
We received one last year. We're currently updating it just so it's to date. That should be done by the end of the month or first of next month. If there's a disagreement, they can get one, and then we would have a review appraisal.
It's fairly unique because it's not like we're going to take away their right totally to have that. Obviously, we're going to move them
Replace their
to another
interest.
hangar. So we're trying to submit that it's sort of an apples to apples process. Maybe there's a cost to move. I had that conversation with them. They didn't exactly accept that. They didn't understand the concept of what I'd say the intrinsic value shifts from one hangar to the other hangar if you have a same 23-year lease on a similar hangar. We're hoping to have a continued meeting, attempt to meet the meeting of the minds associated with that. Right now, it's all amicable, but we're waiting for that report.
James, quick question. What's the square footage on that, on the building?
They're
60 by 60.
60 by 60?
3,600. And just for a real quick question for Mr. Carr, what's going on with the airport purposes?
That's where we're expanding rental cars.
Right, but
The concept
he
is,
talked about FAA.
under the land lease that was done years ago, long before my tenure and even before Mr. Parrish's tenure, they have a land lease between the LLC and the Charlotte County Airport Authority. In that land lease, it gives us the right to terminate the land lease if the property is needed for, quote, airport purposes, as defined under FAA laws and regulations. As a result, we were looking for what I'd say an exact definition of airport purposes. You would think that that would be something that's used out there, although it's been incorporated in a number of statutes associated with various leases, et cetera. Like there's a huge agreement where Dulles International Airport and I think Reagan was leased or by the government to somebody else. Airport purpose is very well defined in there, but it's not a FAA definition. A huge amount of regulations that deal with airport purposes and, of course, the other definition of airport purpose. I feel confident that we have that right. I prefer not to exercise that unilaterally against the persons, but it is a necessity for us to review that.
All right, thank you, Mr.
Understanding there's a distinction between airport purposes and aeronautical purposes. We don't need it for aeronautical purposes. We need it for the purposes of the expansion of the airport rental car facility.
Mr. Parrish, you may know, was there a predecessor to the FAA?
Yes,
The
but
CAA, that was before.
a
us,
long time ago.
Before we were all born.
Maybe that's where Mr. Carr needs to look, under that name.
Actually, Mr. Parrish commissioned Kaplan and Eric Smith. There are aviation experts to do a deep dive into all federal regulations. I got a 12-page letter yesterday, which I would call a deep dive into the regulations, and they've given me some more clarity on it. But again, it's not something that has a definitive definition to it.
Thank you, Mr. Carr.
It sounds like basically we're going to accommodate their move and they're not going to end up losing anything.
Right,
That would be the purpose and
Yeah.
intent of the airport.
Yeah.
yeah. There's a
We have
solution.
we have 10 hangars being built.
And there's
660, but the
Yeah.
concept is no longer going to be that there is one LLC that leases an entire hangar. The intent would be that each member of that LLC would enter into a separate and distinct new lease relative to their 60 by 60 hangar,
Which represents their existing interest. I would
which
guess.
represents their existing
Yeah,
interest.
That's fair.
And again, I just note for the record, it remains an amicable discussion to date, but we're working on issues. I have nothing further.
Okay. Mr. Parrish, CEO's report.
Just quickly, you guys have a very lengthy development report in your package. Just go over a few things. Golf course and Challenger. We're still continuing to work with the DOT on funding. Our goal, we have to do some work on Challenger or on golf course. We've been working with the city, the county, the fire department, police department to make sure that disconnecting golf course at utilities and then connecting Challenger and golf course all the way through to Piper doesn't affect anything. We did get affirmative results from all of those involved. Now we're looking at the cost. The FAA is requiring us to move Golf Course Boulevard outside of the RPZ. which is a significant cost.
Utilities.
No, the utilities can stay, but
Okay.
we'd have to move the road. The added benefit of doing Challenger to Piper is as we develop Challenger, it gives a direct connection.
To the
Keeps a
intersection.
lot of the traffic off of Golf Course north side, which we're still dealing with today. So I think this is the solution, and we're working towards it. It's a development project. We're looking for funding. We're in for CIS funding on that. We're also talking to the DOT about other funding opportunities. So it is continuing. Right now, we don't have any CIP projects out for solicitation or planning. We're working, well, we have the final draft of the terminal planning study that we discussed last month. We also are looking at doing some flight track analysis and some planning on the north side. We have a lot of interest, and I just want to make sure as we develop the north side, we have looked at it so we don't pigeonhole ourselves with any incorrect development in any one location. So we're going to have AECom do a layout if you guys approve their contract. And then, again, we continue with the terminal area planning study in the rental car area. What's currently in design and really almost in construction, terminal seating replacement, we're finalizing the layout, and those should go into production. The maintenance and operation and the new industrial facility it continues to be in design. We just responded to the 15% plans, which are very schematic. Self-serve fuel facility, we're looking at moving the existing facility to the air center, and then putting another facility in a location closer to the 200 series hangars, a smaller one. We use the one that's on the south ramp to fuel our avgas trucks. That's our only storage for avgas. So I'd like to get that one closer to the avgas trucks, and then put a smaller one, and we're looking for a location. And those things will happen pretty close together. Let's see. Inline baggage, continue to work with the TSA on that. We're looking for funding to build that in the future. The FBO hangar, we're going back and forth with the contractor on the pricing. That's a little expensive. And taxiway Gulf, which will be the new connector to 422, is in design right now. Under construction, taxiway Delta will start construction as soon as 422 stops. Building 101 ramp repair is the ramp's falling apart, and we have contracted with someone to do that repair. We're working on scheduling with them. The roadway network improvements, if you've come down Viking in front of our office, they've already started. The next phase of that will be the right turn lane on Piper, and that's part of the utility relocation that we just approved. Runway 422 is ahead of schedule. They will be doing the intersection for 7 days during a shutdown in September. Ray and I will be living here for 7 days, as well as a few other people. We'll be under construction 24 hours a day. We're also trying to coordinate some repairs to 1533 in a couple of spots at the same time. So trying to coordinate multiple contractors, multiple trucking companies is going to be interesting. Wetland mitigation, that's on our agenda later. We are finalizing phase 2. We should have the permits any day now. The 60 by 60s that we just talked about are about to start construction. We're putting up temporary fencing next week, as well as the 24 T hangars and then the 9 other box hangars. And then General Aviation Center, I hope all you can come over and look at that project today. It's a long time in coming, but we're really excited about it.
Wow.
Aviation report.
Mr. Duncan.
Mr. Duncan. Maybe. There we go.
There we go.
In the month of July, you'll see are up. They're about 7,300. about 600 more than 2021, and you'll continue to see that general aviation and local traffic make up the majority of all traffic here at the airport, where air carrier traffic is about 15%, and that's about average for every month. Next. Passenger count, as Mr. Parrish indicated, we're having probably one of our, if not our best year. We had another great month, more than previous 2021. So right now, we're on track to have about 1.8, possibly 1.9 million passengers for the total year, and that would be our best year ever.
So there was a report just put out that traffic for the Southwest Florida was down, I think 9%, 10%. There's 3 airports, us, Sarasota, and Fort Myers. Sarasota and us were up. We're up slightly. Sarasota's up a lot. But there was a significant decline at RSW, and that's something that I have been cautioning about, this huge increase in traffic to Florida caused by the pandemic and people wanting to get out of states that were shut down, and airlines just needing to put planes somewhere. In Florida, although it's not a high yield state, it's a high demand state, that's starting to shift. They're putting those planes back into higher yield routes, more business routes. So that's why I caution a lot that these numbers that we're seeing in Florida, and although ours are up slightly, some airports are up tremendously. They're putting a lot of money into infrastructure based on what I think, in my opinion, is a blip, and I would like to see that continue before doing any major investments. But so we continue to watch that here very closely.
Mm-hmm. And then our fuel sales, our avgas sales are up as compared to previous July, and both out of the truck and self-serve, and our jet is running consistent with previous year, both for what we sell to GA traffic as well as what we pump for Allegiant. That's it.
Question for Mr. Parrish. You mentioned investment, major investment because of what's happening in traffic. Would you agree or disagree with a general statement that some of the projects that we are engaged or are planning to get engaged with are a result of our growth, and we're behind the 8 ball, and we're trying to catch up to meet those needs?
So we are, if you recall, when we did our master plan, we did planning activity levels, PAL levels, and they went from 1 to 4. 4 was the 20-year level. We're currently at 4. So yes, the reason we're moving forward with some preliminary studies is so when the FAA starts releasing some of that terminal money, we have the backup to get in line for it. So, and even when we get the money, we're looking at very phased projects so that we could add some gates, but then have the ability to add more gates in the future. So, like everything we do here, we're very deliberate and try not to spend more money than we need to at any one time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to agenda item 15, old business. Mrs. Oliver having to discuss golf contours. I will mention the Goins are here this morning.
Yes, and I had hoped that we would be putting together an abatement agreement for the board to review.
Since it would be a next month thing, I talked to Mr. Carr, and he said we shouldn't review it until the abatement's up.
Well, then wouldn't they be in default of the abatement agreement if they stay on past the August 31st deadline?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's why I was hoping to see it today, so we would be ahead of that deadline. But I would like the board to vote on and authorize Mr. Parrish to execute an abatement agreement with Golf Contours. And maybe put together, I've seen some emails back and forth. The Goins have indicated, I guess, that they're very interested in the new building, as we've and whatever formal document the airport needs for them to execute in order to get that building or to rent that building, whatever letter of intent, perhaps we can just put that together and have them sign it.
I think it'd be of interest to know where we are in their request as it relates to various building requirements. I don't know where that is.
Well, we generally, we gave them the layout of the building, and generally, we would not have a tenant meet with an architect for specific layouts without them giving us a layout from their industrial designer or whoever to make sure it fits in there. At that point, we would get together with specifics once a lease is signed. And just to point that we deal with probably 50 people a month who want to build on the airport. We can't put our architects and engineering teams in front of all of them until there's a lease signed and a commitment signed. So, and also on that building, like I said, we're at 15% plans. We're at very schematic still. And as you saw the list of projects under construction, under development, it's extensive, and we have 2 people in that department. So it's on the list. We're progressing it. But it's not at a stage where we could even do more than market a shell.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, for decades, that's been the usual process, in my opinion, in land development, that a landlord will develop a shell of what he can afford and what he can build, and then that shape is handed over to a prospective tenant, and they hire their own engineers, their own architects, and fit within that outer shell of that building. Well, kind of like we've done with the admin building.
They do the design of the leasehold improvements, essentially.
Yeah, so I mean, that's been typical for decades.
So we continue to work on that. We can provide schematics in CAD and PDF, whatever is required, to get that process moving forward. I would say it's probably 18 to 24 months from the time a building is ready to be occupied, based on the construction of the FBO, which was a 13,000 square foot building, fairly complex, but today construction is really taking a long time based on all the supply chain issues we're having. So, I mean, the staff is working, although sometimes it doesn't seem like we're working fast enough for people. We are working on things.
So, Mr. Parrish, would it help if we just entered into another year-long abatement agreement, and then
I don't think we can enter into an abatement agreement at the current rate. It has now been 6 years, 3 years since there was an increase in rent. We would have to get to fair market value.
Sure. So, have you all calculated what that would be at this point for that particular building?
We have an appraisal done.
Okay. So why don't we authorize, or would it help if we authorized you to enter into an abatement agreement with an increase in the rent with golf contours for a period of a year, and we can see where we are next August? Would that work?
If that's the board's pleasure, we can move that direction. I will say that we're starting construction on the fuel tanks. There will be we delayed that until the end of the abatement agreement, so there will be a lot of traffic in that area. I would recommend that we move forward with some redesigns to the parking area if we're going to have someone there another year.
Okay.
Well, does it make sense, hearing what our attorney said and you, Commissioner, that we go ahead and instruct staff to bring an updated abatement agreement that has been reviewed by the tenant and ourselves? He's $9,000 behind, and that all has to, I don't know how all that figures in.
I might also add that he hasn't repaired the fire damage despite having told his board on repeated occasions that he was going to do that. So not only are we $9,000 behind in taxes, but in addition to that, you don't have the fire damage repaired after, 16 months, multiple promises to complete that, and no effort whatsoever to move.
Yeah,
But other than that, no problem.
I would think that would have to be a condition of the abatement agreements.
Those were
Repairs
conditions of the
made,
current abatement
yeah,
agreement, which weren't
that-
met.
That they have to meet those before you look at a new one.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I would agree with that.
And you done, okay?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
Do you want me to
Okay.
make the motion?
I think you don't need a motion. I think you just tell them to do it.
I will, yeah, if that's the board's direction, we'll move forward with that, and I will get with Attorney Carr and Ms.
But,
Pettijohn.
I'm sorry, that's not a board direction. I appreciate that's Ms. Oliver's position, but there's no motion second and a vote on that. I mean, I'd appreciate getting that just so I know that it is the board's intent for me to proceed in that direction.
So is someone going to restate what this is?
I'll go ahead.
We need a motion then.
Mr. Chair, I move that this board provide our CEO direction to enter into an abatement agreement with Gulf Contours for a period of 1 year upon such terms and conditions as our CEO feels are advisable, including an increase in rent, being current on taxes, et cetera, and to bring it before the board at the September meeting.
You have a motion before you. Do we have a second? Hearing none, motion fails for lack of a second.
Just so we're clear, that means that you all want to evict Gulf Contours starting next month.
No, I think there's not enough specifics to vote on.
Just to be clear, the document will come before the board with the specifics. They're going to come, we're authorizing our attorney and CEO to come up with the specifics so that they can determine, we're not the experts on this particular lease, we're not the experts on the specifics. They have the actual details and can put together an abatement agreement similar to the one that they're in right now and put in terms and conditions. If the condition is that they enter into a lease for the new spec building at fair market value, then that can be an attachment or an exhibit to the abatement agreement.
Mr. Chair, if I may. We've been led to believe that Mr. Goins cannot find 480-volt electricity for his facility anywhere in this county, that you had several realtors looking, and you just can't get it anywhere. And and so we've been told that time and time again, and basically we have kind of went on the premise that that was true. Well, I brought with me Mr. Sammy Fareed, who is an electrical engineer. He is a registered in the state of Florida. He has his master's in business. And Mr. Goins, I'd be glad to meet with you after the meeting, but he has given me a diagram of how the power plant and the power substations and delivery of 480 volt pretty well, it can be delivered anywhere in this county. And so if you'd like to see that, I mean, it may open up doors for you. It may.
Happy to see it.
Very good. But the reason why this has all come up, because ABC Supply is building over in the Charlotte County Park of Commerce, and Florida Power and Light is delivering the voltage that they need over there in the Park of Commerce. So anywhere pretty much where you see distribution lines running down streets, you can run you can attach a step up transformer to that and get a whole slew of different voltages up to 600 volts. But so I did bring Mr. Sammy Fareed with me. But we can meet after the meeting if you'd like. So just to make that clear, we've been told time and time again that he can't find another facility. So.
Okay, at this point, since your original motion failed, we'd have to have another motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we authorize our CEO to enter into an abatement agreement to include details and to come before this board before anything is approved. So this is just authorizing them to enter into the agreement for our approval, much like we're doing with the restaurateur. You know, we get to look at the details before anything is approved. For an abatement agreement of another year upon such terms and conditions as the CEO deems advisable.
We have a motion on the floor, and I assume, I'm just assuming, and I'm not putting words in your mouth, that we're instructing staff to develop a draft.
Correct.
There's no agreement or commitment by this board.
That is correct.
So we have basically a motion to direct the staff to draft an additional abatement agreement with Gulf Contours and to bring it before the next airport board meeting is the motion. We need a second. Seeing none, motion fails. I guess we move on to new business. Hangar projects.
We have been in discussion with the current contractor on some increases to the fencing cost, and we have come to the conclusion that we're not going to be able to work through that with them. We have we contacted multiple fencing contractors and have a contract with B&B Fencing Solutions. It's actually a reduction. It's an increase to the cost of the project, but it's considerably less than their cost. We're increasing some fencing just so that everything becomes airside all the way out to Challenger Road, so that as we develop more hangars, we don't have to do the fence every time. And so we'd like to sign a contract with B&B for 3,850 feet of fence for $95,000.
Need a motion to consider a fencing project with B&B Fencing Solutions as detailed in your agenda package.
So moved, Mr. Chairman. As presented.
Second motion.
We have a motion and a second to enter into a fencing contract with B&B Fencing Solutions. Any discussion? I have one question. I assume the fence specs are the same.
They're the same fence specs. We're buying the fencing direct to save the 7%. Okay. But it is the same fencing FAA.
Yeah, because fencing can come in different.
Very much different.
Right.
And,
okay.
Mr. Parrish, it's 3,850.
How many?
3,850. I was just going to tell Mr. Parrish that really $24.67 a lineal foot for, the 6-foot high fence with barbed wire and galvanized
and concrete.
In concrete,
yeah.
And it's really fairly cheap, I think.
Well, just for comparison, we paid $14 a linear foot for fencing after Hurricane Charlie, so many years later, and
Sure.
the price of steel, and keep in mind all of this has to be American, and so.
Yeah.
I know, I do agree that is a good price, and that's why we went ahead.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Discussion is complete. All in favor to enter a contract with B&B Fencing Solutions as presented, an amount of, $95,000. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign, motion carried unanimously. Next item.
Passenger facility charges, I mentioned earlier, we are quickly approaching the end of our ability to collect. So we have put together PFC application number 4, which amends number 2 and adds additional projects. We're still in the development phase of the project, so we're pretty close. We bring those to you. All the projects are currently in our master plan. This agreement is with AECom. Leibowitz and Horton will be continuing to do our our PFC applications under them. So it was $85,000 to do that. That is a PFC eligible, so all those funds will be paid for by collections in the PFC.
Mr. Chair, I move that the board approve the scope of work and the fee in the amount of $85,000 with AECom, and also allow our CEO to execute the contract as presented.
Second.
We have a motion before us to move forward with a PFC application amendment as presented with AECom, the subconsultant being Linda Leibowitz, in an amount of $85,000. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed, motion carried unanimously. Just to divert it a little bit, I assume everybody understands what the PFC is. You know, some people that are watching us may not be aware of it, but that's a passenger facility charge. It's a $4.50 that's put on each deplaning ticket for the first 2 airports you go through. It's collected by the airline. The airline drags back 8% for their collection fees, and the balance is sent to the airport to be used for FAA approved projects.
Yeah, one of the issues and the reason we have to go through this lengthy application process is all the projects have to be approved by the FAA prior to us expending any money on them. The list of projects is very arduous approval process. We have to have environmental on everything, and so it takes a long time to get it through. That's why we have to do these things years in advance so that we don't lose the right to collect.
Okay. Moving on, new business, item C, the restaurant concession and license agreement.
So we're bringing to you the licensing agreement for the use of the restaurant facility. As we discussed last month, we will be funding the build-out of the restaurant, and will be paid back through this licensing agreement. Very minor changes to it in the negotiations, but staff and our attorney and his attorney have gone through everything, and we're comfortable with it. Just like to get approval to sign this so that we can move the project forward.
Mr. Chair, if I may, Jim, if I may note one, I think, typo. It's a 10-year term, and if you go down to D1, it lists the first 2 years, then the next 2 years, and then that 6-year period goes through 2027 to 2037. So that you need to change it 2037 to a 2032 under D1.
All right.
Page 3.
I will.
Which paragraph? I understand it's D1.
D1 on page
What is the
3.
number
On
paragraph?
paragraph 3,
Paragraph 3.
section 3.
Before we get into the motion on this, as long as we're talking about it, their anticipated completion date for an opening? Any idea?
I would say 12 months from the time we sign this. He's more energetic, and he thinks he can do it in 9.
And for the purposes of our viewers and audience, it's a full-service restaurant, and
correct,
which is good, and it's going to service all the corporate and general aviation traffic through here.
He's agreed to do catering for the corporate traffic, and breakfasts, which will be off menu for Rosati's, and then lunch and a dinner with delivery, which is one of the reasons we're getting a slightly higher payback, is because it would be a restaurant.
How many will it seat?
120.
It could, possibility. So we have, it's separated into 3 sections. We can take over 2 of those for meetings. If EDP wants to meet there and have lunch, we have the ability to do that. So we're trying to make sure that it can cater events as well as meet the needs of the general aviation. And so we're excited. I was at Naples yesterday and talking to one of their major planed management companies, jet management companies, and their caterer has decided he's not growing anymore, and they need about 25–30% more. So I've already started getting those two together. Since Rosati's is out of Fort Myers, I think there's the chance that he could start catering much earlier.
The two important notes. One of the things is that they, in the negotiations, we did agree to a guaranteed minimum payment each month, and also all equipment is going to be maintained by them once it's installed. So two good things for a long-term lease: guaranteed minimum payment as opposed to just a percentage, and two is that the maintenance of the equipment once installed is going to be on them during the period of the lease. So I thought those were two good accomplishments by staff, Ms. Miller, myself, Mr. Parrish, and Gary, working with the other side. And I would say the gentleman is extremely enthusiastic.
James, is that the gentleman that attended our meetings a couple of
Yes.
times? Okay,
Yep.
nice, very nice. Yeah, he's been following us a long time.
And I think he may be at the grand opening today. He's here.
Oh,
He is here. There you go. I don't look out the crowd. The lights, really bright.
Yeah, he didn't have a chef hat on.
So,
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that the board to approve the restaurant concession license agreement with a slight modification to the one paragraph, adjusting the 6-year period as presented.
Second.
Okay, since we've had the discussion, we'll call for the vote on approving the restaurant concession license agreement, operating agreement with the franchisee Rosati's Pizza. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Same sign. No. Motion carried unanimously. Item D.
so I'd like if the board would want to, just to save time, D, E, F, and G
Are all the same.
are all
Basically.
FDOT PTGA grants, and they are for payback or increases to the roadway network, for payback on runway 1533 for monies that we previously expended, additional monies on the GA taxiway and ramp, and then additional monies for the taxiway delta rehab, since that became a full reconstruction project. So if we can discuss them, but if the board desires, we can do a motion to approve all four and the required resolution for each one as presented.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the board approve items D, E, F, and G related to the FDOT grants, and also to allow Mr. Parrish to execute associated resolutions with the same as presented.
Mr. Chair, second.
Resolution on the floor to approve four various FDOT public transportation grants as detailed in your agenda package, and developing the appropriate resolution and accepting same. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Same sign. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Okay.
Thank you.
Just moving on to item H, new taxiway G contract with Kimberly Horn. They have a representative in the audience, Paul Perot.
Yeah, Paul's been here a lot lately. So Paul,
Sorry.
sometimes good, sometimes bad, engineers showing up. No, so we selected them at the last meeting. We negotiated a contract with them. We've gone through the independent fee estimate. We've gone through negotiations with the independent fee estimate and Kimberly Horn, and we have settled on an agreed amount. That is, let me get to that page.
$620,485.
Yes, and I won't say anything about it because the independent fee estimate was considerably more.
I was going to ask the question.
So I think it's a good number. Ron and I reviewed everything, and I would like to get that signed so we can proceed with design. For those of you who don't remember, Gulf will connect the GA ramp to taxiway Alpha, the parallel to 422.
Mr. Chair, if I may, one quick question to Kimley Horn, or just one item. Gary Bain's contract, under expenses on his page 2, he says that SED will provide the permit application fee to the Southwest Florida Water Management District, but if you go over to the next page, he talks about what's not included, and one of the things not included are permit application fees to the Water Management
So
District.
they generally write the check, and then
Yeah.
it's a reimbursement.
I got you, but one side says it will provide it, and the other side says it will not provide it. So that's what I'm talking about. It's a discrepancy. So it's a minor correction.
Get the black pen out.
We'll make that change.
All right, thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I guess if we approve this contract with Kimberly Horn, then after it's over, you can reveal what the estimate was and see how much money they left on the table.
Trust me, so you have to have a record of negotiations whenever it's more than 10% difference. And so we did that. We convinced our IFE company, which was a new one we'd never used before, that we were right. They were.
Okay, the chair will entertain a motion to approve a contract for Kimberly Horn for design and construction service, I assume, for taxiway G project in the amount of $620,485,000. FAA is at 9% and our PFC is at 10%.
Mr. Chair, I would have the board approve the contract with Kimley Horn and Associates, Inc. in the amount of $620,485 as presented.
Second motion.
We have a motion and a second, and we've completed, I would say, discussion on the Kimberly Horn contract. Entertain a motion to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Same sign, no. Motion carried unanimously. Item I, design build service for RFQ selection.
So the state allows us to use design build contracts for almost everything, but we can have an on-call contract for projects under $250,000, small items that just need to be taken care of. We've used it in the past very successfully. We have not recently, but with the growth that we're seeing and a lot of the small things that are just cropping up, we think it's prudent to have someone on call that we can use. The board allowed us to go out for RFQs. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have ranked them. I would recommend that we select 2 so that we have some options if we can't negotiate with the first. Half Acre Construction and Capital and CMT are the 2 at the top. Keep in mind OAK is already working with us on another design build project.
Mr. Chair, I move that the board approve and select Half Acre Construction Company and Capital and Crawford, Murphy and Tilley as the firms to provide design build services for projects under $250,000 as presented.
Second.
Motion on the floor to select 2 engineering firms to provide services, design build services up to a maximum of $250,000. 2 companies to be selected: Half Acre Construction Company, Capital and Crawford, Murphy and Tilley. Any discussion? I do have a question. Capital and Crawford, Murphy and Tilley, I assume that's a joint venture. And when you use these guys, do you go out to both of them simultaneously, or
No, we
do you
generally
check
do.
workload and all
We
that kind of stuff?
talk about workload, and then we assign a project to one. They go out and get multiple bids for each section. They present us with the cost, and then we would bring that contract to the board for approval.
I've had experience with Crawford Murphy and Tilley. They're a very good aviation company. They have a good outfit.
Mr. Pierce, I'm sorry. Can you refresh my question? Did this go out to a bid so that all interested firms could bid on it? What page is that on of our agenda? Do you have that?
What
The RFQ selection, the rating.
It's
in the
yellow sheet.
Does the entire public get the yellow sheet? Is that on our
Yes.
agenda?
Would you like to see this?
I was, yes, thank you, because on our YPGD website, I'm just looking here, trying to find it, what page it would be on the agenda that's published to the public.
It's part of the packet that goes out. I would have to look.
Okay. In the future, can we start publishing yellow sheet with our agenda so that the entire public can see it? What page is that on?
It starts from the beginning.
So it is right behind the
It's right behind the agenda.
Right behind the agenda.
It's not yellow on there, but it's,
I downloaded it, and it goes from 19, adjournment, on page 4, page 5. Thank you. I appreciate it.
yes.
Did you find it?
I did, thank you.
Section I, section I.
So we have a motion on the floor, and second discussion is complete to allow the engagement of the two high-score companies for design-build services. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Opposed, hearing none, motion carried unanimously. Next one.
Thank you. Item J is a wetland mitigation contract with EIP Credit Co. This is part of the 422 Phase 2 wetland mitigation. We started Phase 1. We started the first phase of wetland mitigation with 1533. This is the second phase under 422. It is a contract to purchase 12.15 acres of wetlands, dual freshwater herbaceous credits, and 0.25 core freshwater herbaceous credits, and the amount of 1.352 million is 100% funded by PFCs, and it was in the original scope of the contract, but the wetlands are in front of you. It's a major wetland at the end of 422 that has been a problem with birds for years. There is still a continuation of that wetland off our property on the IDA land, but it does take care of what we can on our land.
James, a quick question. The agreement under number 4 process, section E, you might want to check that, the agreement execution date. Make sure that's...
Yes, we have already,
Okay.
they've extended it.
Very good. And these, you got to have...
I did authorize, just so the board knows, the deposit so that we can hold it.
Okay. And so you got to have the ERP and the ACOE, and that's the 2 permits you talked about earlier.
Yes.
That we've almost got them. Okay.
These permits, just so everyone knows, this has been about a 5-year process
Yeah.
to get the permit for this.
So these costs are tremendous.
Cost,
200,000.
keep in mind, when we did the industrial park, we purchased about 5.5 credits. I have to look back. About 20,000 a credit. Today, they're 200 plus.
And those were freshwater, right, Jim?
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Too bad you're not a farmer.
we should have built wetlands.
Yes, did our own wow,
Okay.
that's a pain in the butt,
And that
too.
is something we have discussed. If you'll recall, a few years ago, we looked at partnering with the DOT on some land south of the airport, would save
I
them
remember.
some money on I-75.
Yep.
I was working with Secretary Bider at the time, and he thought it was such a good idea that they did it themselves, so.
Mr. Chair, I move that the board approve the contract with EIP Credit Company in the amount of $1,352,000 and allow our CEO to execute the contract as presented.
Chair, second.
Okay, having basically completed the discussion, I'll entertain a motion to enter a contract with EIP Credit Company in the amount of $1,352,000 for wetland mitigation. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Same sign, no, motion carried unanimously. Okay. Any public comments? Anybody that wishes to address the board? Got 2 minutes, come forward, identify yourself. 2 minutes.
My name is Jerry Gowan, Allen Golf Contours, and I'm at a loss to know where we're at this particular moment. I go back into March, April. Conversation was held at that time. The airport authority was looking to build a building that would serve our needs. Talking to Mr. Parrish, Mr. Hansick up here. A couple weeks we'll be with you, talk about it. You're also going to build a maintenance building. We got nothing from you other than a basic drawing showing the building. We have asked for contact with people that could talk about it. You want a lease? We have nothing to go on to look what the lease would involve. We have nothing to do that. We went ahead and said, yes, we'll sign a lease. Our back is against the wall. It's really against the wall right now. We're being forced out. You keep repeating the fact that we have not repaired the fire damage. We have put a new baffled screen in. We have put the new fire suppression in. I have told you repeatedly, we will repair the drywall in there, but we will not repair the insulation between. We had a contract signed, we had a check issued, the airport would not approve it. We are not behind on our 21 taxes. We have turned around, as always, and set up an agreement with the county. That's not an issue. We've done that for years, and we'll do it this year. You have now put us out of business. We have no place to go. I have to go back and tell my people that we're going to have to sell off the machinery. We're going to have to go out on the street. I certainly thank you for all your help for the 23 years, and if this isn't a kick in the head, I don't know what is.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. I say that not very nicely. I want to thank Vanessa for all your help, Vanessa. You have been great. Paul, we helped get you on this board. I hope you never get back on the board. Mr. Kirsten?
Yes, ma'am.
I want you to know something. You do not belong on the board. You have misrepresented your district. You have misrepresented your district. Rob Hansick, give me a minute. I have every right to tell him he has everything that he has said. Whatever Mr. Kirsten has said for this board, anything that he has voted on, should be non and void, because he doesn't belong there. He has misrepresented his district.
Time will tell.
Any further comments from the public? Hearing none, we'll move on to the commissioners' comments. Start with Mrs. Coppola.
I'm just glad everybody's here. Got a full house. It's been a very interesting meeting, and I don't know what else to say, but thank you for being here. End of discussion.
Mr. Hurston,
You
please.
usually get me last, but I'll go ahead.
Well, would
It's
you
all
like to go last?
No, it's all right. It's all right. as vice chair. But anyway, staff, great job, as always, amazing. And Sandy, I know you work hard at our accounting. But anyways, it's good seeing everyone. I know we have Commissioner Deutsch in the audience, and we have Sammy Farid, our electrical engineer that is going to get used quite a bit, at least by my firm. And we'll see where that all goes. And we have Chris Chase in the audience. Chris, raise your hand. He's fairly new to the area, and he's doing some development projects. But other than that, it's good to see everybody, and thank you.
Vanessa.
This is government at its absolute worst. We have strung Gulf contours out for months, telling them that this building, this spec building, we're going to put you in there. You're going to be able to be there. You're going to be able to stay on the airport. It is a bait and switch, which you all did today, and it's disgusting. I am absolutely sick over it. That they've been in constant contact with staff, and for us to sandbag them like this was just supposed to be a formality. And so what you did today, you evicted this company, and I hope you understand that, because Mr. Carr can't wait to evict them. He's going to start on September 1st, you know that. This is gross, and I'm so disappointed in each and every one of you.
Mr. Andrews.
I'd like to thank everyone for attending. I don't have anything further.
Interesting end to the meeting. I would like to recognize Mr. Gary Quill in the back.
Is Gary back here?
He was the,
I didn't see Gary.
he was the, back then, I think it was called Director of Aviation before Mr. Parrish, who's now our CEO.
Hiding in his bright pink shirt.
Well, that's how I recognize him. I assume you're here for the event that's going to follow. Yeah. I want to invite everybody, you're probably all aware of it, at 11 o'clock we are going to be doing an official opening and ribbon cutting for our new General Aviation Air Center Corporate Center. It'll be at 11 o'clock. We want to invite everybody out there. It's a state-of-the-art facility. We'll try to keep the comments brief. When we get done, there'll be some cake.
That's it.
That's it?
Okay.
All right. Please come out. You all know how to get there? You go up to Challenger. 11 o'clock.
11:30.
So I'm just asking.
11 o'clock, people can start arriving. Speaking starts at 11.
Yeah. Speaking starts at 11:30. Let me see. Let's see. Open house starts at 11:30. Welcome and introductions start at 11:30. Okay. Any other comments? Hearing none. Motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn, Mr.
Okay.
Chair.
Second to adjourn? Okay, we'll adjourn. What,
And you don't fix the damage.
I think you're in.
What's really,
So this is for the license, restaurant agreement.
you can pick it up next time.
And then these are all the resolutions for the FDOT.
I do my own.
Where are those?
Well,
Good catch, by the way. Remember Hughes?
I do. Good to see you again.
We'll make that correction. In fact, while we're sitting here,
I know why he says he'll pay the fee. I'm not sure.
Thank you very much. And just sit here and wait for me.
Yeah, I'm not Since you're,
Pardon me?
Should we sign that restaurant agreement, or should we make some major changes?
Thanks for
I'll
the
make the
vote.
changes, send it back. I remember trying to figure out what changes we're talking about. I don't have a problem signing it. Somebody else will
Katie will be.
Yeah, just that agreement. Since it's on a different page, then you should be able to sign it.
Okay.
The good news is that she did your 2 runways and your tax rate dollars, so she doesn't even need.
Thank you.
I'll check that change. Back to you.
Okay. Do you want me to email you what it was?
I was getting my pilot's license and also studying civil engineering. So it's really been a combination of those 2 roles for me. Yeah, it's been really
Okay.
Yeah.
We're getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, I know. You guys have been very, very good to us, so we don't take that for granted.
We had a couple of really good leaders here. Gary had the personality to fight everybody off somehow. That wanted to harm us. We had good leadership.
Well, it's great to see you.
Nice to see you too.
You were sounding like
Yeah.